Here's a highlight from today's Dennis Michael Lynch podcast.
The U.S. Supreme Court on Tuesday blocked a Texas law that bars large social media companies from banning or censoring users based on viewpoint, siding with two technology industry groups that have argued that the Republican-backed measure would turn platforms into, quote, havens of the vilest expression imaginable. The Supreme Court justices, in a 5-4 decision, granted a request by NetChoice and the Computer and Communications Industry Association, which count Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube as members, to block the law while litigation continues after a lower court on May 11 let it go into effect. The industry groups sued to try to block the law, challenging it as a violation of the free speech rights of companies, including the editorial discretion on their platforms under the U.S. Constitution's First Amendment. Conservative justices Samuel Alito, Clarence Thomas, and Neil Gorsuch issued a written dissent. So did liberal justice Elena Kagan. So keep in mind there, you got a 5-4. That means, okay, that three of the so-called Republicans or the conservatives on the court said, yeah, we're going to allow Facebook and Twitter and YouTube to continue to censor conservatives. That's really what they do. So in other words, kicking President Trump off or, lowering the reach of my posts on Facebook, that's allowed to happen. That's allowed to happen, which is absolutely crazy. Now, what the industry groups said that state's law, Texas law, would unconstitutionally allow for government control of private speech, which is BS, and that it would restrict the platform's editorial control. The group said, quote, this would compel platforms to disseminate all sorts of objectionable viewpoints, such as Russia's propaganda claiming that its invasion of Ukraine is justified. Instead of platforms engaging in editorial discretion, platforms will become havens of the vilest expression imaginable, including pro-Nazi speech, hostile foreign government propaganda, pro-terrorist organizational speech, and countless more examples. This is insane, right? You understand this. This is insane. What this is saying, and remember that 3 members of the court who are supposed to be conservatives, 2 of them put in there by Trump, are basically siding with the Facebooks of the world who are going to say your viewpoint as a conservative cannot be shared unless they believe it can be shared. And then they have the audacity to say that your speech is basically compared to that of pro-Nazi speech, hostile foreign government propaganda, pro-terrorist organizational speech, and countless more examples. That's insane. That is absolutely insane. If you want to go on Facebook and argue about what you believe happened during the election, you bring up 2,000 Mules, for example, they can shut you down because they don't want that conversation to be had. If you go in and you talk about the ineffectiveness of the vaccines based on how they were originally positioned to work, how they were originally sold to work, the goalposts on that whole conversation have moved 50,000 yards deeper because you were supposed to take a vaccine and you would never get sick again. And when that didn't happen, they changed the definition of a vaccine. If you were to point that out, or if you were to argue that masks don't work, and then point to actual statistics which show that New York and Florida, 2 different sort of viewpoints on masking. One was pretty much mask free. The other one was wear a double mask. I mean, kids in East Hampton, New York had to wear a double mask going to school. And there are no proof, there are no studies that show that New York was even at all better positioned because of masking than Florida. If you were to bring that up, you can be censored. You could be limited by these companies. And they want to compare that to pro-Nazi speech or hostile foreign government propaganda. They want to compare you to Vladimir Putin. They want to compare you to Osama bin Laden or ISIS. They want to compare you to some, Hitler-like personality, which is absolutely insane. What conservative on the Supreme Court would say that the platforms are the ones with the First Amendment right? It's ridiculous.
Click the share button now if you want to piss off a liberal.